All right, how you doing? I'm Jules. I think what I'm trying to do with this video is essentially document a little journey that we took earlier on in the year, because it's the first one since a number of health issues and COVID, which I think any motorcyclist will resonate with if they hadn't had the opportunity to ride for a few years. And so to eventually do that, even in a simple way for the hardened travellers out there, represents quite a lot. So I hope you'll enjoy it. It's a little bit more than just, sticking a camera on my helmet. Tried to have a little think about, the history of the places that we've gone to, and illustrate that in the film. So, hope you enjoy it. I'll do better next time. Imagine what that young guy on the moped would say if you were to tell him that there would be a time in his life at which he wouldn't be able to ride motorcycles for over 2 years.
You must stay at home.
I'm sorry, Mr. Lovell. You need a new hip.
I'm only 48. Hey babe, let's move in together. Ooh, well let's get a dog too. It will rehabilitate you.
And so, with a willing conspirator in the shape of my Uncle Lance, we set out to tour the Somme. A full tank of petrol is the living embodiment of starting as you mean to go on. The plan then is to hack across to France and visit the Somme battlefields. They're handy because it's an easy way to dip your toe back in the water again, eh? But it gives us an opportunity to remember the fallen. Unfortunately, a little bit of dilly-dallying along the way took part, as the song goes, and I nearly missed the ferry. Slight confusion at the Irish Ferries terminal. I decided to start identifying as a truck. I mean, it is a GS after all. And the green light wasn't illuminated over the check-in for cars and buses. That's my excuse at least. Ah yes, the quintessential take pictures of your bikes whilst you're waiting for the ferry. We then settled down to enjoy a 40-minute delay. This was a little frustrating, as the ride down could have been a lot less stressful had I have known that there would have been a wait. Of course, the eagle-eyed amongst you might observe that I could have left earlier too. A big thanks to Mr. Considerate here for stopping dead at the top of the ramp, with little regard for me behind him. Thankfully, this bike is specified with hill hold control. Yes, I could just use my brakes. But what's the point of the technology if you don't go and use it? Irish Ferries let you strap down your own bike. Time to show all those other roughy-tufty bikers that I don't sit at home all day typing on a keyboard. There, that ain't going anywhere. Ah, bloody hell, what deck are we on? Look, Mum, we're on a boat. So after a pleasant crossing with Irish Ferries, we disembarked feeling just a little bit smug that the return ticket was half the price of P&O, DFDS and the tunnel. Food wasn't great, mind you, hence no onboard action shots. I exit the ramp only to discover the horror of a slick wet deck. You'll see that bus to my right spin its wheels up any minute now. I can't think of anything more embarrassing than chucking your bike up the deck just as you're leaving. The action, such as it is, continues with us hammering towards our destination that's going to be our base of operations for the next few days, Saint-Quentin. Initially, we started off by avoiding toll roads and major roads and what have you, but as you'll see, this caused a little bit of discontentment within the team, largely because we rode for quite a while and seemed to get nowhere.
This is north.
Yeah.
And San Quentin is southeast of Calais, but we've actually done 0 miles towards it.
Well, I don't know what to say. By this point, we were both getting really quite tired and elected to stop riding the D roads and try and get to our destination a bit quicker, so we could actually throw our bags down and have something to eat and flake out for the evening before we got on with the actual purpose of the trip the following day. We finally made it to our hotel in Saint-Quentin. It wasn't quite how the pictures on booking.com depicted it. Don't worry, everyone's okay, but this might be an opportunity to just have a quick history lesson and recap on precisely why the Somme is significant to the British. Most people know that the First World War was triggered by the murder of the Archduke Ferdinand of Austro-Hungary. I'm including it here because it's the catalyst for what transpires in the Somme. One of the central tenets of the British Army has always been to have a fairly small professional army, as opposed to a large conscripted army. When the war started, the British sent its expeditionary force of these professional soldiers to the First Battle of Ypres, and it decimated this cadre of soldiers, and so they had to look further afield and to conscription to replenish numbers. So with a conscription policy in effect, we see the very famous Lord Kitchener "Britain needs you" advertisements, because we had to rebuild from these devastating losses. Another thing to consider that characterises the Somme is the nature of the soil in this region. The Allies adapt to this with some very interesting tactics. So we've established then that as we go into the Somme, the British Army is made up of both professional and conscripted soldiers. However, it doesn't end there. The force is augmented with our Commonwealth partners, New Zealand, Australia, Canada, South Africa, India even, each of whom fight like lions. The Battle of the Somme was intended to be a joint effort between British and Commonwealth soldiers and the French. However, when it came close to the Battle of Verdun was still raging. Verdun was actually the longest battle of the war. Consequently, the French couldn't spare the manpower to fight on the Somme front. And it's for that reason that you see this dense concentration of British and Commonwealth troops fighting this battle. And so sadly, this is why you have the density of cemeteries and memorials to British and Commonwealth troops throughout this area. From a touring perspective, a town called Albert represents the epicentre of the battle. It's situated on the D929 between Amiens and Bapaume, and so we're going to head off there on our bikes now and visit its excellent museum. The Musée Somme is located in the centre of town. Its entrance is on the right hand side of the basilica, right in the centre of town. Entrance fee is about €8 per adult, and the actual museum is located underground, and it displays a huge range of artefacts that have been recovered from the battlefield.
You know, I saw you, it said parking this one.
Yeah, I went there. There was a car park down there.
I didn't see the car park, so I went down the end, went up there, came back around again and came in. And as I came in, that old fella with the shirt on, he just went,
So if you turn around from where we left the bikes and face the basilica, the entrance to the Musée Somme is on the right hand side of the basilica. As I was walking through the exhibit, I was horrified to come across a ghostly apparition in front of me. Oh, hang on, that's Lance. We leave Albert somewhat subdued. It's quite hard to get your head around the idea that 70,000 casualties are taken on the first day. 20,000 of them are KIA. I've always thought though, you can't really offer remembrance without feeling the emotions. We're now going to head north to the National Memorial of Canada. Apart from being just the most beautiful place to visit, it also has some interesting preserved trench networks. The land for this memorial was given to the Canadians by the French in order to create a preserved battlefield. You can see there all around the monument that there are pockmarks, that's from artillery shells. In the trees and in the wider surrounding area, there are still unexploded munitions, and as such, there are signs saying danger, undetonated explosives. The Canadian Memorial is about an hour north of us, around 30 miles. We need to factor that in for the way home because of course we're going to have to come back on ourselves to go back to San Quentin where our lodgings are. That means that we're actually under time pressure, and so we've elected to get onto the A1 to get there as soon as possible. Using the motorway allows us to make really good time, and we're rewarded with the most magnificent sight. Parking is free at the memorial, with a special motorcycle location just inside the entrance gate on the right hand side. If you come out of the car park and head south on the D55, you'll come across the Visitors Centre and the Preserved Trench Network. I don't want to spoil all of the sites for potential visitors, so I'm going to leave this one an enigma. When in France, as they say, Rudders, let's have an impromptu French lesson. Mon billet n'est pas accepté. Or, my ticket is not accepted. Alternatively, you could go with Mon billet a été mangé. My ticket has been eaten. And failing all of that, you could try putting your ticket in the truck driver's slot, missus, that's currently above Lance's helmet. Missus. You know, all this international adventuring is all very well, but there comes a time at which you just need to deal with your own personal administration, hence a trip to the supermarket. And really, what better place to go and find a pair of gold lame disco jeans? With panniers rimmed with essentials, we head back to the hotel to sleep and to prepare for the next day's activities. It's day 3 and we're making progress, as the motorcycle manuals tell us. We've got a number of different destinations to get to today, and so we can't really afford to hang about. From Saint-Quentin, we're on the D1029 heading northwest towards Albert. Our destination is a village called La Boiselle, which is just north of Albert. We entered from the south of the village, coming from the D929 onto the D20. We took a right where it was signposted for Le Grand Mine. Presently, we came upon the site. This is the result of a mine that was exploded, marking the beginning of the Battle of the Somme. It was created by the 179th Tunnelling Company Royal Engineers by basically digging into the chalky soil underneath the German lines, leaving stacks and stacks of amatol there, and then at 7:28 AM on July the 1st, 1916, they blew it up and they made a hell of a mess. This signalled the beginning of the Battle of the Somme. Right, well, we now have to get our skates on because we need to get over to Beaumont Hamel to have a look at the famous Sunken Lane as captured by Geoffrey Mallin's film. This image immortalises the very moment at which the 1st Battalion Lancashire Fusiliers are about to make their attack on German lines, with horrific losses for the day. We're also going to look at the memorial to the 8th Argyll and Sutherland Highlanders, and from this vantage point we can also see Hawthorne Ridge and the cluster of trees that represents where the mine that was placed there went off. We're now heading off to Thiepval and the memorial to the missing of the Somme. On each of its Portland stone piers, it records the names of 72,337 missing British and South African servicemen who died between 1915 and 1918 with no known grave. The memorial was designed by Sir Edward Lutyens, who is also known for the design of the Cenotaph in London and India Gate, which stands as the memorial to 74,187 soldiers of the Indian Army who died between 1914 and 1921. At the foot of the memorial, you see the Thiepval Anglo-French cemetery. This contains unknown soldiers from both Britain, the Commonwealth and France. Lance then says, "Come on, we need to go back to Albert. I've found something really interesting on my phone last night." Instinctively sensing a sense of importance to the task, I decided to make best efforts. Of course, hooning around can only end one way. Yeah, I bloody know what you were thinking. I'm very, very sorry to disappoint you. Eventually, Lance directs us to a very innocuous looking industrial estate on the outskirts of Albert. I can't lie, disillusionment is building. And then, like a phoenix from the flames, we are presented with the Musée de l'Épopée de l'Industrie Aéronautique. I'll drop a link to the website in the description text. It's all in French, but you can translate it with Google. It's situated at number 17, Rue de l'Industrie. It has to be said, the museum contains just the most wonderful exhibits of classic French vehicles and warbirds from the 1950s through to the 70s, all presented in such a way that you don't feel restricted from really having a good look at the items on display. Having spent a good couple of hours digging through all of the exhibits, it was time to go back to the ranch and get ready for tomorrow's activities. Right then, so we've got a little bit of crisscrossing around to do today. Our first destination is Peronne. We're going to the ex-Chateau de Peronne, which is a medieval fortress, but it holds a museum to the Great War, which is really good. We're now off to see the Newfoundland Memorial in Beaumont Hamel. We'll be making a couple of stops along the way. As we crisscross the D938 going backwards and forwards between Albert and Peronne, we kept noticing the signpost for the Devonshire Regiment Cemetery. This particular cemetery came into being on the 4th of July 1916, and it's made from a section of the old front line trench at Mansell Copse. The ground was originally held by troops of the 9th Devons before the attack towards the German positions in Mametz on the 1st of July. Casualties were extremely heavy, and after the attack, a wooden board was erected close to the mass grave with the legend, "The Devonshires held this trench, the Devonshires hold it still." So whilst we were fairly depressed as we went to leave, it was heartening to see that the local gendarmes had seen our lone bikes at the side of the road and thought they'd pull over to investigate and make sure everything was shipshape. Northern France has some simply fabulous roads to be riding around on, and up until today we'd had really good weather, but like I always say, even a wet day on your bike is still a day on your bike. We're now off to the Ulster Tower that memorialises the men of the 36th Ulster Division. It's based on Helen's Tower, which was in the grounds of the stately home where they trained. We then continue our journey west towards Beaumont Hamel. I guess it's worth noting here that both parking and entrance to the memorial are completely free. Donations, of course, are very welcome. It had become apparent that over the last few days, the riding that we'd been doing was very much point to point to get to the places that we wanted to see. So we decided to take a slow trickle back to the hotel, just enjoying the scenery. So we're up with the larks this morning. We've got a fairly long ride, about an hour and a half, up to Belgium to visit a museum in Mons, and then we about face and come back to Saint-Quentin to go to the Moto Bicane Museum. As we head into Mons, the elite levels of navigation continue.
What are we looking for? The Mons Memorial Museum. Yeah. 63 metres away. It's a big glass building, and it's got a tank parked outside on that picture.
Yeah, there's a tank over there.
Yeah, but it's not that building.
No, it's this one.
Once the negotiations as to where the museum that was behind us was, we went in. Mons was fought over in both the First and Second World Wars, and so it displays exhibits from both of these conflagrations. And so after a biggish morning in the saddle, there could be only one quality restaurant with which to take luncheon. Fully refueled, we get back in the saddle and head to our destination. And so, having seen everything that we had the time to see, we went home. Quick, smart.